My secret, just do something that ain't nobody ever done before, but make it sound like something that's always been there forever.
Welcome to This Filipino American Life, a podcast that explores the nuanced experiences of Filipinos in the United States at iba pa. My name is Elaine Delalas, and I'm joined by my fellow hosts,
Ryan Carpio,
Joe Bernardo,
and
Mike.
Producer Mike.
Yes.
Yeah. And today, our TFAL of the episode is our very good fan and friend, Ben de Guzman.
What?
Ben.
We actually know Ben. Usually I fake it, but we know Ben.
Hi, Ben.
Hello, Ben. And this is apropos since Ben has worked for the veterans, World War II veterans campaigns, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and today we are going to be talking to Joseph Zoleta of Black Six Coffee.
Ooh.
Wait,
what's Black Six
Black
Coffee?
Six? Oh, like, wait. What?
Whoa.
Echo.
Echo. So Black Six Coffee is a trading company that's created by Joseph Zoleta, who is he's a Navy veteran, I believe, and he has a passion for coffee, and that he was able to transition his military into his civilian life, because I think he's a medic or EMT, and then he wanted to find a way to give back to underserved communities around the world, like humanitarian efforts. And he also has a passion for coffee. So it was, hey, why not sell coffee sourced by the Philippines and other countries like Guatemala, where coffee countries, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so he sells coffees, and then he uses the profits from the coffee company to fund Black Six Project, which is a humanitarian effort.
That's awesome. I love coffee.
Nice.
And I love humanitarian efforts. So I love two things.
Two things you love.
I know.
Both delicious and hot.
Delicious. No, has the Philippines always been kind of a coffee country? Or is it more recent?
Well, you talked about that.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. I learned about Black Six Coffee on Instagram, and I thought, oh, this is really cool. Like, it was before I had learned through Joe, actually, about like Calzada coffee and like, and then like the different coffee Filipino roasters that are out here in the States. And I know Black Six is one of them.
Yeah.
And there's not that many. And so it's nice to see and to be able to support like a fellow Filipino American.
That's awesome. That's cool.
Yeah, what was that history? It was like, is there still a strong coffee cultivation culture in the Philippines, or is that something that used to be there? Or I forget.
I mean, its quote unquote height was in the late 18th or late 19th century. I just listened to a podcast about this, but it's centered around Batangas, and that's where Barako coffee comes from. But it's never been huge. It never like dominated the market. It maybe dominated the market for like a few years, but mostly Filipinos import their coffee.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're a sugar country. Right?
I
mean, that's how...
there's a lot of sugar. There's,
Copra.
different agriculture. But
Yeah.
I mean, if you really want to go to Philippine economics, we are a service-oriented
Sure.
Yeah.
company.
True.
Yeah.
Service-oriented economy.
But in
Yeah.
terms of like the
Agriculture.
world, agriculturally, you would say like coffee just
It's not that.
Not that.
Yeah. I mean, most of the stuff that's grown is consumed by locals, but the Philippines still imports the majority of their coffee from outside.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm curious, and probably when we get a chance to talk to our guests today, I'm curious to know, like, hey, like, is this newfound thing, or is it actually like good big business in the Philippines, or if it's booming? Interesting. I looked at their website, and all the Philippines ones are like pretty popular and sold out.
Sold
So I
out,
was like,
yeah.
dang.
So he probably needs to go
Yeah,
back.
man, we should have had some of the coffee to like drink while doing this conversation.
Or tea.
Or tea.
Yeah.
I don't drink
You don't
coffee.
drink coffee.
So.
Yeah.
Unless it's a frappuccino. Something
Unless
ice
it's
blended.
like-
Skinny frappuccino.
Something ice blended like a milkshake or something.
So baby drinks.
Hey,
One day Joe will get there.
maybe.
But yeah, so I'm looking forward to this conversation, and I hope you all enjoy it. Hey, do you know of a way that I could support TFAL besides being on the show and giving you all this cool entertainment?
How?
Hey, Mike, do you know of a way?
No.
Jeez. Come on, guys. I know of a way. I could buy Ryan a Ko-fi.
A Ko-fi?
What's a Ko-fi?
A Ko-fi is a way that I can give TFAL some money just for a one-time situation. Like if I have an extra $10, I'll buy TFAL a $10 cup of coffee.
Do we
cool.
actually get Ko-fi?
We
Coffee?
get the money, so
Oh.
it's like that's the coffee.
That's cool.
Ko-fi.
Isn't there a subscription service too?
Yeah, you could be a TFAL Patreon.
Oh, how does that work?
You contribute monthly by like $5, $10, $15,
$100?
$100. If you want to do $1,000 because you're just so inclined. But yeah, you become a TFAL Patreon, and by doing so, we shout you out on the episode. You are the TFAL of the episode, and we do things on our special Patreon sometimes. But yeah, you could buy us coffee, or you could monthly subscribe or monthly contribute to us.
Oh, and we could buy all this new equipment.
Yes.
Yes, and we could go to different places to interview people around the country.
Yes, and you support this entertainment that you are getting for free.
Oh man, that's
We
so
are
awesome.
doing this for free, aren't we?
Because
Yeah.
I'm sick of spending money, my own pocket money. I'm doing it because I have a lot of bills too. You know.
That's right.
Yeah, so if you really love TFAL and you ever thought, I want to help those folks out, be a Patreon or buy us some Ko-fi.
And where do you go?
You go to thisfilipinoamericanlife.com, and under support, there'll be links for the Patreon and for the Ko-fi.
Cool.
Thank you.
And we're back.
Yay.
I
Good
hope-
break.
Yeah, I hope you enjoyed that ad. Please buy coffee, support us by Patreon, or
Or
buy
something else.
buy a T-shirt from our store.
or another ad, maybe. I don't know.
Oh yeah, or watch a movie from TFC. We don't know.
But I'm glad you listened to the ad. So
Thank you for not hitting forward for 30 seconds. So we're back, and now we're here with Joseph Zoleta of Black Six Coffee. Hi, Joe.
Hey, how are you guys doing?
awesome.
Welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me. I'm a big fan. I'm like so shocked I'm actually on this. I'm a fan.
Thank you.
That's so cool. And now we have two Joes. So now I feel I have to be like Joe Bernardo.
Joe number 1 and Joe number 2.
But which
Yeah,
is which?
we're on
I'll be
opposite
number
spectrums
2.
of the alphabet.
Yeah.
It's true. You're at the beginning, B, Joe B, and then Joe Z.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm always last to do my book report in front of the class because they always put us in alphabetical order.
So before we get into your work with 06
Black
Coffee,
Six.
Black
Black
Six,
Six Coffee.
06. What's
Zero.
06?
I don't know what 06 is.
Zero dark.
Before we get back into your to talk about Black Six Coffee, let's get to know you for a little bit. Where did you grow up? When did you or your parents come to the United States? All that stuff.
So I came to the United States when I was 4 years old.
Wow.
I was born in the Philippines. I was born in Quezon City, but we grew up between my parents' island of Mindoro and then also Quezon City. So my family was back and forth.
Nice.
So 1985, I immigrated here to Fairfax, Virginia. My dad's side was living here already, so we stayed with her. And then 6 months later, we moved up to New York. This was about end of 1985 that I came up to New York, and I grew up mostly in Queens. And now I live in Long Island, just on the border of Queens and Long Island.
Oh, nice.
And I just only went to school here in the United States. So my Tagalog is really horrible.
Did you grow up in near Woodside, Queens, or that part of
No,
Queens? No, not the Filipino side.
Little Manila.
Yeah.
No, I grew up in Hollis, Queens, which is sort of offset of Little Manila. But I had a lot of cousins that lived in Woodside, so I spent my summers over there under the 7 train.
Nice. Hollis, that's where Run DMC is from.
That's my only reference for Queens.
Yeah. Was it Run DMC, Onyx, LL Cool J?
Onyx and
Yeah.
LL Cool J?
I didn't know. Ladies love.
There's actually a block there, like a traffic triangle called the Benigno Aquino Triangle.
Oh, nice.
So it's like weird. It's not in Woodside, but it's actually in Hollis.
Interesting. I
Wow.
wonder why that's there. Do you know why it's there?
No,
I
I
don't. Isn't the part of their family like lived
In New York.
In New York, for a
No,
little
Yeah.
bit?
they were in
Or in Boston?
They were in Massachusetts. Yeah,
Oh, they're in
Yeah.
Massachusetts.
Yeah.
Okay, that's where
Yeah.
Corey went.
that's where they were exiled.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, fascinating.
yeah. It was a random place. It was like I think 180. I want to say 185th and Hillside Ave. There's just this random block that says Benigno Aquino Triangle.
Cool.
I'm
And no-
looking it up right now.
I'm not. No worries that your Tagalog isn't that great because I can't speak it and neither can Mike. Joe and Ryan are the ones who are better at it.
I speak it
Ryan's better than me
in Tagalog.
in Tagalog.
Yeah, he's better than me in a lot of this.
And everything else.
Yes.
No, because I also immigrated at a young age, like at 7. So, but I kept the language. I don't know. That's kind of interesting. My parents never let me lose it. So
So you grew up with a lot of Filipinos in New York? I mean, you said you had cousins in Woodside, and you spent summers there.
Yeah, most of them. Not so many Filipinos in Hollis. I would say like during the time I grew up, I had like 2 or 3 Filipino classmates, but it was like such a diverse community. They had people from India and different parts of South America. So yeah, most of the people I grew up with that were Filipino were either mostly my relatives or my relatives' friends.
Nice.
So it's as we're recording, it's like about to be Veterans Day, and you are a veteran, correct?
Yes.
What area of the military were you a part of?
I joined the United States Marine Corps in 2002.
Marines, nice.
Yes, Semper Fi. It's also the Marine Corps birthday coming up, so you're gonna see all these things about people going crazy for Marine Corps birthday. It's almost like St. Patty's Day for us.
When is this Marine Corps birthday?
November 10th, so right before Veterans Day.
So it's a good thing we're not going to be anywhere near the base because it's probably going to be hectic, huh, Mike?
What
Yeah, stay off the streets.
It's Marine Corps. No?
Marine Corps.
Yeah.
It's
But
different from the Navy.
That's actually why I said, "Oh, cool." Okay.
Yeah.
no. Okay.
It's totally different.
Okay. You are looking at me like I'm a crazy person, but there are Marines on base.
Not really.
What's
Not
your
in Ventura
closest
County.
base?
So, like, my family's Navy family. My dad was a CB for like 39 years. And if there's anyone on that base, it's like Navy folks or Air Force folks. But the nearest Marine Corps base, I think, is somewhere else.
Oh, no, never mind then.
So it's not like all the members of the military go to the same bases and just hang out together. That's not really how it works. You can go to another base, but it's just anyways.
I'm just saying, as somebody who has been on base, you see not just Navy people, so I thought there would be Marines, but whatever. I guess I'm wrong.
You're not completely wrong.
Yeah.
The Marine Corps is the part of the Department of the Navy. So if you look at the logo, it says around there Department of the Navy.
Yeah.
See?
But there's no like Marine Corps battalions or anything like that
Okay.
based out of NMCB. Port Hueneme,
Today
Ventura
I
County.
learned.
Thank you for teaching us that right now. So what made you join the Marines?
It was, I had no family that joined the military. So it was mostly like growing up with cousins, mostly male cousins, and then just playing G.I. Joe. You always wanted to join the military, but like nothing really gave me a kick start into it until 9/11 happened.
Mm-hmm.
So, being a New Yorker, it really affected a lot of the New Yorkers. But then there was also during 9/11, I was working as an intern in the World Trade Center. I was trying to get extra credits to graduate high school. I was almost going to get a GED, but the principal got a hold of me and was telling me that you're gonna get your high school diploma even if you have to do extra stuff. So the guidance counselor got me an internship on the trading floor at the World Trade Center.
Oh my gosh.
And
Wow.
when 9/11 happened, I woke up late that morning.
Wow.
I was being like my typical self, and my friend, my Filipino friend Mike there, who's I'm still very close with, he called me up and asked me if I was at work, and I was like, no, I just woke up. And he said, go look outside your window. And I looked outside, and one of the towers was smoking.
Oh, wow.
And then while we were talking, the second airplane hit.
Oh my gosh.
And then that's when like our phones went pretty much quiet. We're like, oh no, what's going on? So it was definitely that one of the things that made me want to join the military, because it was, a lot of times people like felt like victims, and the only way I thought at least that I didn't want to feel the victim was sort of like be on the offensive.
Mm.
So I was like, I'm going to join the Marine Corps. There's nothing that's going to push me before. This is definitely the thing that's going to push me to the Marine Corps. So about a week later, I went into the recruiting office. I spoke to the Marine Corps recruiter, and I said, sign me up, and, let me get to the quickest scheduled boot camp I could get. And then they're like, well, what do you want to do in the Marine Corps?
Mm-hmm.
So I took the ASVAB, scored very high on it. And then he's like, we have all these jobs that you'd be qualified for. You could do aviation. Mostly, he was trying to talk me into aviation because I already came from a background of aircraft maintenance. The high school I went to in Queens is called Aviation High School. And we earned our FAA license to repair aircraft.
Whoa.
So he thought it was key that I could join that. But then I was like, no, what job gets you to the front? And he goes, infantry. So I was like, that's what I want. And he goes, go back home, you foolish little boy, and think about it. So he gave me choose the top three. So I think my choices were infantry, intel, and EOD, which is an explosive ordnance disposal, or the guy who wears the full body suit and disposes bombs. So he's like, all these jobs don't require a high score. Like, choose something else. I was like, no, if I was going to join the military, I'm doing it for the full effect. So I said, I want the infantry. And next thing you know, I went into the infantry, and it was probably like one of the most difficult jobs in the Marine Corps. But it also has exactly what you think you would do when you join a combat unit. And then I ended up getting stationed in beautiful San Diego in Camp Pendleton.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so the Marine Corps was definitely the thing that gave me sort of a way to get over what happened in 9/11. It was just, I didn't want to feel a victim. A lot of people are always wondering what to do next, and sometimes I just jump at it without thinking.
Wow. Well, thank you for your service.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Do you get that a lot? Do people say that to you? Thank you for your service.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. It's like what do you mean by service? It's like, to me, it was just like a job or a way of life. It's not like an actual service. But another veteran friend of mine came up with a great comeback. His name is Christine. She goes, thank you for paying your taxes. so every time someone says thank you for your service, I say thank you for paying your taxes, because that's what pays the military.
You're welcome.
So when you were in San Diego, was there kind of a lot of Filipinos on base with you or anything like that you met?
So I'm sure I know you guys know this, but because I heard you guys speak on your podcast, in the Marine Corps, there's not a lot of Filipinos. In the Navy, holy cow.
Yeah.
There's so many Filipinos. And so when I was when they first got to my unit was 2nd Battalion, 5th Marines.
Mm-hmm.
There was just I think 2 other Filipinos I were with. Mm-hmm. And most of them came from the East Coast, like I did. And that's pretty much it. There were a lot of Mexicans, and then of course a lot of Pute, and that was just the majority of it. But then when we were getting ready to go on our first deployment to Iraq, they pulled a lot of Navy corpsmen out of the hospitals. So because we had a shortage of Navy corpsmen, so if you guys aren't familiar with what the Navy corpsmen are, they are the medical personnel that treats the Marines. We don't have our own medics, not like the Army or the Air Force. So we rely on the Navy to provide our medics. And if you look at the iconic Iwo Jima picture where they're raising the flag in Mount Suribachi, one of the people there is actually a Navy corpsman that was assigned to the Marine squad raising the flag. So when they activated, they transitioned a lot of these hospital corpsmen out of the hospitals. That's when I realized like most of the Filipinos are in the Navy. And so when you become a corpsman, you can qualify to be to work for or to be assigned to a Marine unit. So I think they go to Marine Combat School. I forget the name of it, and they earn like a pin, and it looks like a wing, and it says FMF on it, and it says Fleet Marine Force. But all the Filipino corpsmen that I met, they call it the Filipino Mafia Force. So, and yeah, there was just like all of a sudden this influx of Filipinos that were getting assigned to our unit.
So I had a quick question. When you wrote to us the first time, you mentioned that you were undocumented, and you didn't know that until until much later. So what was that kind of experience like?
I was like pretty ignorant about it. Like I had no idea about documentation. I was just like a kid, just growing up in Queens, and I used to play practical jokes on my mom. She was working in a health insurance company in Manhattan, and I would call her and I would prank call her and I say, "This is immigration," and she goes silent on the phone. And when she got home, she would beat me, and I thought it was funny, but I didn't realize why it was that funny. But so when I came here, I have 3 sisters. 3 of them stayed in the Philippines. So I didn't get to see my sisters for about 10 years.
Oh, wow.
And I always wondered like why I can't go back to the Philippines. Because if I go back to the Philippines, I won't be able to return into the U.S. And I didn't really understand that. So I think it was 95 that we went to the Philippines to, pick up my sisters and fly them over here. But we had to go to a U.S. embassy meeting. I did the interview at the embassy, and they were like, "Joe, do not try not to talk during the interview. We don't want them to hear your more American accent." And I just couldn't understand why. And they're like, because they think that you were in the Philippines the whole time. So I was like, oh, so that's why I got beat so hard with those practical jokes.
Oh my gosh.
What a surprise. Surprise.
Yeah.
Don't say anything. Oh, wow. Okay.
And then,
So when when we went back to see my sisters, it was just like, I could see the complete difference in how we grew up. They were still, my mom and dad would always send money back to the Philippines to pay for their education. And they were still living in one of the apartments in Quezon City, like a bunch of other relatives, and we were just piled up in there. Yeah. But being away from home for about 10 years, when I came back to the Philippines, it was just still fun again. I never left. It was still a part of me that I always missed, and I didn't know that until I went back there, and I make it a point to go there as often as I could. But it was just, I have other friends that are going through, other Filipino friends that came here and never got their paperwork fixed, and now they're going through some of the problems of with this current presidency and probably getting deported. But it's something that, our parents luckily took care of. So now all my sisters are here. We're all together.
That's awesome.
And it sounds like your documented status, your status has changed.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think by the time I was 18 or 19, we got approved to be citizens already.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah.
So yeah, they did it really quick after my sisters got here. My parents made sure they filed all the paperwork.
Yeah.
And no one got in trouble. So
Yeah.
we got our citizenship.
And he's fighting for our country.
And then you joined
Right?
the military to fight for our country.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's awesome. With your connection to the Philippines, I kind of want to start segueing into your work now, the work that you do with Black Six. Tell us about that, about your organization, the company, and your mission.
Yeah. So after I got out of the military, I became a paramedic in New York City, and it was a complete difference of what I did in the military. I'm taking care of people during their emergencies when they're getting shot, having heart attacks. And in the military, I was the one shooting people and blowing things up. So it really helped me understand the opposite side of life. As good as we were at taking life, now I work as hard to balance it in preserving life. So I made a very good career as a paramedic, and then I started, meeting more people who were veterans and went into EMS, and they've always wanted to bring their care elsewhere. And we spoke about what can we do that brings that excitement of being on the deployment in another country, but also have the excitement of providing the medical care that we learned in the streets of New York City. So then I was like, well, we could, we could just start an organization. And, one of the paramedics I was working with was a Navy corpsman. His name is David Guzman. And we spoke a lot about it, and we decided to make a nonprofit, and I named it Black Six. And the name Black Six comes from the name of my platoon on my second deployment. So my second deployment to Iraq was very difficult. We had a lot of wounded and killed for our unit, but my platoon was a very honorable platoon. We received many medals, and we were in many firefights. So I wanted to pay homage to the company by naming it Black Six, which was our radio handle when we speak over the radio. Yeah. So we called it the Black Six Project, and we made it a 501c3. And one of the first places that I really wanted to bring humanitarian aid to was to my parents' island in the Philippines, Mindoro. And one thing that we did well as being in the military was just getting into these remote areas and planning it well. And one of the places I thought of testing our ability to do this was taking care of a tribe in the Philippines called Mangyan. So they're an indigenous tribe in Mindoro that have lived in the mountains for over centuries.
They still use the Baybayin script.
Oh, wow.
They're the only ones who still use it right now.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, one of the few tribes that use it. So we set our eyes on that and, planned it out. We took 3 other paramedics, 2 of the military veterans, to the Philippines with us. And we did a general assessment, but we also bought some medications for children, antibiotics, pain meds. And there were remote towns, so parts we could drive to, some other parts we had to cross rivers, and then another one we were only able to access by boat, so we had to go around the island and come off a boat. And that was one of the most exciting things, because that's what Marines do. We're amphibious. So just coming off the boat, I was like, man, this is definitely the things that brings me back to my military days. So we took care of about 600 Mangyan community members. We medically evacuate one of them by boat in that same town. We made like a stretcher out of bamboo and some tarp, and we carried him out and brought him to a hospital 2 hours away. And then, after that, we did some other missions. We went to Puerto Rico a few weeks after Hurricane Maria. Same thing.
Oh,
We
wow.
took a bunch of veterans or first responders from New York City, and we went to those areas that no one could get access to. So sometimes we were just hiking it, everything in our backpacks. We just didn't let anything stop us. So now segue into like what we did recently. Last year, I decided to go to the Philippines to go to Kibungan. Kibungan was hit with a landslide during a storm around October last year, and we decided to head over there and try to help with their search and rescue. And we got there and they were pretty much well dug out already. And this was totally different than what I saw in Puerto Rico. Like Puerto Rico, we were like 2-3 weeks out from the hurricane and they were still buried. Philippines, we were like almost the same amount of time by the time we got there, and it looked like they cleared out pretty well. I just learned that area gets hit often, and so they were quick to clear out. But while we were there, we were living by a coffee farm, and I was like, "Holy cow!" I didn't know we grew coffee in the Philippines.
Mm-hmm.
So I was also like beginning my amateur home roasting career. I bought like a little coffee roaster at home, and I would just like buy little lots of green coffee roasted and just sample at home. And I was like, hey, what if we just buy like the remaining coffee? So we asked around and found like a coffee co-op that had just like 40 pounds of coffee left. And at the same time, I was testing this backpack that another Marine Corps vet I met. It was prototyping, and I asked him if I could borrow it for the Philippines. So I was like, oh, I could test out this backpack by putting 40 pounds of that coffee in it and try to hike it off the mountain.
Wow.
So it came perfect. So I threw it on my back, came down the mountain with it, and then just
threw
kept
out
it
You
in
throw
the
your
backpack.
back?
The what?
You throw your back?
No, I didn't throw it back. I threw it on my back.
Yeah, man, you make me feel lazy. I can't carry my water bottle because it's so heavy.
You have it like on a
Oh my
cart.
goodness! No, seriously. Oh my goodness!
Yeah, so when we got it back here, I roasted it, and I was like, wow, their coffee is really good. And I was like, started doing more research on Filipino coffee, and I just saw like it was like one of the top coffee producing countries that were imported into the U.S. So I was like, then why isn't it like thriving right now? And then it turned out it was hit by a coffee rust. And then when we also declared independence, I read that a lot of the stores started boycotting Filipino coffee at the same time.
Oh.
So they decreased their production, and they're just like, all right, there's other things that we can grow. So now when I roasted it, I decided to start selling it, and I thought this would be perfect way to fund more missions, because as a nonprofit, it was just like hard to always ask the same people for donations, and it's mostly like friends and family, and they're like, all right, where does Joe want to go now?
Right.
What crazy things is he gonna do? So I thought of like making a for-profit company that funds our own nonprofit, and we launched it November 11th last year. So this Veterans Day coming up will be our 1-year anniversary.
That's awesome.
That's awesome.
That's cool. Hey, so Joe, real quick. So when you guys started off as like doing all these missions, you guys were just relying on donations when you guys did your before you're doing the coffee stuff. You guys were
we were just like mostly private donations. All the volunteers that would go, they would just like start asking friends and family if they would donate. We had fundraisers, but everything was just donations to fund our mission.
How many of you guys went the first time around when you did the like the hikes and all that? About how many of you actually went to the Philippines?
We were about like 5.
Oh,
when we went to Puerto Rico, we were 2 teams of 5.
Okay.
We did one team that went first, and then our equipment was so low that when we waited for them to come back, and then we swapped the equipment to us, and then we had it there.
Yeah.
So that's how we were able to save money. So about 10 when we went to Puerto Rico.
So when did you start the actual mission stuff? And then when did you start I just want to get a timeline. When did you start the coffee stuff? So when was your first mission?
2017 is when we started the missions.
Okay.
That's when our nonprofit started. And then just last year is when we started doing coffee.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so it's funny because like when we were doing when I managed the TFAL Instagram account for mostly, and I remember like just looking for stuff, and this is when I was like finding coffee companies or whatnot, like Filipino, and I remember thinking like, oh, Black Six Coffee was like the first Philippine roaster. Or I found, and this was before Joe went to the Philippines. Our Joe B.
Joe number 2.
Joe number 2. And he went to and he did that interview with your friend who does Casada Coffee.
Yeah.
And then before we learned about Barako Coffee in Canada. So it was interesting how it was just how so serendipitous that all of these Filipino American, Canadian coffee roasters started springing up on the radar last year.
Yeah.
And it's so awesome that
Cape
Coffee.
Not Barako, yeah. And Vancouver.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the cool thing is another coffee roaster in San Diego, no connection to me, but I'm a fan of other Filipino owned coffee roasters. Mostro Coffee, I think close to, I want to say around San Diego. They won Coffee Roaster of the Year.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. So that's a very prestigious thing from the special. I don't think it's from Specialty Coffee Association, but I think it's from Roast, one of the top publications for specialty coffee roasting. So when I saw that they won that, and I was a big fan of who won last year too. I just started ordering their coffee. When I saw that they won, I was like, yes, we're making it. So we're making our mark.
I had a question about the coffee farmers in Mindoro. What have you kind of learned from them so far? Working them for over a year. What have you learned from the farmers so far?
So most of the farmers that we've been working with are between Kibungan and also Cavite, close to in this area called Amadeo, which is a pretty cool name. But what I learned that most of the time is that these farmers are getting older, and the ability to harvest, everything's by hand. Most of the coffee producing countries harvest by hand, except for Brazil. Brazil is probably the most industrialized coffee harvesting country, but these coffee producers are getting older. They're having a hard time harvesting their coffee. So there's a good chance that the coffee industry in the Philippines could just die out.
Oh, man.
So, we're trying to figure out ways to keep the youth in agriculture, especially with coffee. So, the last time I was there, around the same time I was there in November or October, I started looking at all the coffee culture in the Philippines, and it's pretty much growing. So all these cafes are popping up. I think I went to Commune in Quezon City, and they just have a beautiful cafe there. They use, I think, almost 100% of the coffees from the Philippines. But I think that's where it might have to begin, where the youth will understand or appreciate the cafe, and then from the cafe they'll transition to what can we do to make this coffee better. Then they'll go into the farm, and hopefully we could figure out how we could keep them in the farm. And I think speaking with other coffee producers from other countries like Colombia and Guatemala, what they've been doing is trying to introduce technology in farming. So whether they're using drone technology and then using social media as part of it. So those countries are sort of blending the cafe culture closer to the coffee farm. So the social media part is like their baristas will be taking pictures of harvesting, and then they'll process it themselves, and then they'll roast it and serve it themselves in those cafes. So their social media push to show what they're doing for coffee will also allow them to be more involved in the coffee farms. And I hope within the next few years we can help bring the youth back into coffee farming, because I really think Philippines produces great coffee, and it's just another thing to show the world that what we're good at. Why not one of those things that we drink almost every day?
Do you is there a way to, or do you go through the kind of certification to ensure that your coffee is fair trade? Like, what is that kind of process like, and how do you get certification for that?
So currently in the Philippines, there's like no governing body on the fair trade thing. And speaking with like a lot of the coffee farmers that we deal with in other countries, they can't really afford to be certified as fair trade. We are going to most of the let's just speak mostly of like the work we're trying to do in other countries, because we're not just like importing from the Philippines. Like Philippines is, their production is very low, but I'm learning from other countries of where they're at and what I can implement in the Philippines, and hopefully success. So all these other countries, like into Guatemala, for example, we're dealing with very small farms most of the time. Same thing in the Philippines. They might be 2 acres to 5 acres. So to get certified is, I don't recall the amount off the top of my head, but the farmer can't come up with that. So they're just producing maybe 20 pounds of coffee to about 50 pounds of coffee a year. Wow. So, and then, you speak with a lot of the fair trade people, it's just like a certification. Why can't we just say like, hey, listen, this is the farmer right here. Mm-hmm. We're trying to tell them the story, but then we're also trying to go back into the community to help them out. So from learning from what difficulties the farmer has, we're able to decide on what we're going to do for our humanitarian work. So especially with the Philippines, that's like on the back end of I think this is probably like a 5-year plan that I'd rather do with the Philippines. Is like, do I need to get the fair trade certification? Yes, this looks good as a sticker, but would I rather just have the farmer in the cafe say, hey, this is our coffee, this is what we're trying to do, this is what my community needs, and like help us out, buy our coffee. Mm-hmm. I'd rather have it that way rather than a certification.
Is there a way to kind of put on the label of the coffee like the story of the farmers?
Yes, definitely.
Like okay, so you do that?
Yes, most of the coffee that we import, we do a little story about the coffee farmer. And then one of the biggest things that I love about roasting is to develop the flavor. Each coffee farmer will produce a very distinct flavor. So most of our coffee won't be like dark roasted or super dark roasted. It just eliminates all the sugars and the flavors that the coffee farmer pretty much worked all year to develop. So when I burn it or roast it, I can make it taste like any other coffee in the world. So I'd rather have this distinct taste that this coffee farmer produced. And that's like one of the ways we tell their story. This coffee farmer did this, did that. His coffee farm is located here. His name is this. And, as we're trying to grow this, we're trying to bring our video teams there to like talk more with the coffee farmers and just show why you're paying like a buttload of money for your cup of coffee, because it's not easy to grow. For me, it's easy to roast, but like one of the biggest things that I've learned is just like being in a coffee farm is a lot of labor, but it let me learn about coffee so much within 1 year. From like the perfect timing to harvest the coffee, cleaning the ground right, making it shade grown, trimming the trees. It's not just like an easy task. So if you're paying like a certain amount, I want you guys to understand that the labor goes into just to growing it.
Online, the Philippines coffees are sold out. I'm assuming it's because you don't have those beans anymore.
Yes.
So when do you think those will be available again?
So in 2 weeks, we're supposed to have a shipment of the Excelsa coffee. And then I think, so I'm going to the Philippines in 2 weeks also.
Oh, wow.
We're doing a dental aid mission to the Philippines in Mindoro again. But we're also trying to source more coffee from different countries. And one of the biggest problems why I think coffee is not really getting out there is just their supply. So we want to make sure we pay them a little bit more, get them ready for next year. And we're going to be repeat customers of the people that, have been growing pretty good coffee and have a good social interest in their own community.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's going to be a slow process, but we're looking at other locations that will produce pretty good coffee. So we're planning to go to Sagada in 2 weeks, but we're also still waiting for coffee from the ones that we have right now. So yeah, the supply is pretty short, and we hope a lot of the farmers stick to coffee growing.
So is it the Philippines coffee sold out because there's not a lot of it, or it's because there's more demand of it?
It's
Both.
I think it's not. There's not a big supply of it.
Okay.
And then like the coffees that we're aiming for are like graded high. Like for example, one of them is Excelsa. That's not a species that's known to be a specialty coffee. But then when I like have these coffee lovers in New York try it, and I tell them like it has such a distinct taste that it has like a dark taste, and then all of a sudden it ends up being nice and sugary at the end. And then they're like, where is this coffee from? Like, I've never had this wide spectrum of coffee. I was like, oh, it's Excelsa. And they're like, Excelsa from Colombia? Like, no, it's not. Excelsa in the coffee world is mostly known to be like a certification to be a Colombian coffee. I said, no, it's a subspecies of Liberica. And the only way I found out about it is we were mostly sitting around with the coffee farmers, and that's what they usually grow for themselves, and they don't really sell it. But we really loved the taste when we visited them. So we bought a whole bunch of them, and now we're trying to get more of that here. So like just that idea that the farmers did not know that there would be a demand for it, and now we're just trying to order more and more every harvest season. We're hoping to bring the supply up and make them interested in knowing that their coffee is going to market in the U.S.
So there's Excelsa, there's Arabica. What's the other kind of beans? There's
the Barako that you drink is a
Liberica.
Yeah.
Is there a Putriska?
I knew it. I was waiting for that. I was like,
joke.
It's coming.
He looked so serious. I was like, maybe there's no joke coming. I'm like, man, Joe's really into the coffee. And then
I was like, for someone who doesn't drink coffee, I was like, it's coming. There it is.
I know. I was like, man.
Yeah, I apologize, Joe. I don't. No, because I don't.
This is one of the reasons I love listening to your podcast.
No, I don't drink coffee, so like I really don't know the difference between anything.
Oh, they're so different.
So
It's so different.
coffee is just bitter to me.
You've been having bad coffee.
Yeah.
It's just one of those acquired tastes.
What's the best coffee bean for Frappuccino?
Frappuccino.
Any, and then add sugar.
Yeah.
And whipped cream.
and ice.
It's an over roasted burnt piece of crap coffee.
Yeah.
Easter's choice.
3 in 1.
Coffee ko.
Senka.
Nescafe.
It's so fascinating because, like, I think for a lot of us growing up, coffee was like that freeze dried, just had
Yes.
hot water.
Yes.
Instant.
Mm-hmm.
And so to see like beans being roasted and then having like just these flavors and palettes. In college I was a barista and for Borders Coffee, and it's a defunct bookstore for people listening. It used to have a coffee shop. I worked out of there, and they had their own roaster at the time. And so I became a total coffee snob for a very long time. And then I gave up coffee because I was like going insane because I kept drinking too much of it. And for a really long time, I didn't drink any coffee. I was like done. And then the dark side happened and I came back to it. But my palate just opened up because there's just like such like a plethora of roasters out there these days that you don't have to have like garbage Starbucks coffee. Because like for folks out there, Starbucks over roasts their beans. Everything is burnt. That's why it tastes crappy. That's why you put so much sugar in it.
I guess. I don't know.
More like crappuccino. No? Sorry. High five.
Yeah, high five. You did get a high five for that.
But like good coffee, like Joe's coffee, Josie's coffee, it's really good. Mike and I had the pleasure of tasting some of it because he sent out some beans to us. Oh, cool. And the Tactile Coffee guys in historic Filipino town, I was grateful for them because I don't have a grinder. And so they were able to grind the beans for us and brew it for us. And so I remember like, this is really good. That's cool. And so I was like, oh, I can't wait for more of this coffee. I'm assuming you're not putting it on your back. Like there's another.
It's like 3 backpacks now.
Yeah.
Yeah. How do you ship it? To
This shipment that we're waiting for is actually our first cargo shipment. So it's palletized. It's about like 600 pounds of coffee, and that'll probably sell out so quickly because there's so many people waiting for it too.
So you're gonna save some for us, right?
Oh yeah, right. It's gonna be in my pockets. I'm gonna make sure.
1 bean, 2 bean, 3.
Yeah. It's gonna be like sungka.
I mean, I really like the trend these days for like a lot of these businesses has been like a social enterprise, right? So like you are selling a really quality product and then it's going to your humanitarian efforts. Mm-hmm. So like you can feel good about feeding your caffeine addiction.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Addiction. You can feel less guilty.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's it's sort of like you're like the drug lord that gives back to the community. And being in Colombia, I was in Colombia like a month ago, and they were like referencing that to me. I was like, yeah, you could say that.
That's such an intimidating way of forcing you to buy certain coffees.
Yeah, but like it was to us, it was like we had the social mission first, and I was just like working my butt off as a paramedic, and I was like, there's got to be a way I can figure out to like move this into full time while also do something that I enjoy. And being a paramedic that works around the clock, coffee is a big thing. So I was, like, it just hit me like, this is perfect. This is kind of what I know, but then also like the mission that I've always dreamt of doing.
Yeah. So I've been following your story for a while, and it sounds like you've been in like these pitch phases, right? To certain ventures who are attempting to support veterans. So can you speak a bit about that and like where you're at in the process?
Yes. So there's a few organizations out there that are supporting veteran-owned businesses, and one of the biggest reasons they're trying to do that is like, when you get out of the military, a lot of the people that I serve with had a hard time adjusting. So we look at the stats from World War II veterans a few years later or decades later, almost close to 50% of them started their own businesses. Meanwhile, veterans that started after 9/11 is like about like 4.7, I think, or close to 5%. So a lot of these organizations see that running your own business is a great way to make use of your skills that you learn in the military. Most of it is like initiative, leadership, and to me, it's like figuring things out. So, like the gateway into this world was really that backpack company called Backpacks for Life. I went to an event where they pitched, and it was an event with an organization called Bunker Labs. So Bunker Labs is a nationwide organization that works with WeWork and created a program called Veterans in Residence. So they were doing a pitch event, and that's when they ran into Brett and Alexa, who run Backpacks for Life. And, I was about to go on that disaster relief mission. I was just like, hey, I'm a Marine Corps veteran. I'm about to go on a disaster relief mission. It'd be pretty cool if I could borrow your backpack and take it with me to the Philippines. And they were like, well, this is our only backpack. And they were like, come on, it's going to be pretty cool. It's going to be like in this mountainous town in the Philippines that I've never been to, but we'll get some great photos and we get to test it out. And they like put their faith in me. They're like, here, take our only backpack, the prototype, and don't mess it up, pretty much. Well, they didn't say that to me. They're just like, here, have fun with it. And, next thing you know, it's like really the vessel that started Black Six Coffee Trading Company. It carried it off the mountain. It stayed in my carry-on luggage. I put it in the overhead compartment. But then it introduced me to a whole other world of veterans starting their own businesses. So when I got back, Brett and Alexa, they're like, hey, we would really want to recommend you for this program. And so I applied. I got interviewed, and they accepted me. So from January through about August, we were in a close to 6 month long program of just starting your venture. They make you get connections, work on your business plan. They're mostly asking is like, what do you want, and we'll try to get it for you. But you need to show that you need to really work on what you're doing. And, on top of them as being a resource, I was surrounded by all these other veterans trying to, make their business dreams come true. So everyone was hustling. Everyone's like texting each other, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm working on this. I was like, good. You're sort of have that camaraderie that you missed in the military of people looking to, create something or reach a goal. So it made a community for us. And, I just went into from a career paramedic now to like an entrepreneur, which was like so weird for me. Like I think for the first 3 months, I kept having to Google entrepreneur to spell it correctly. I was like, E here or you here?
R-E or E-R?
I probably still have to Google it and double check.
Yeah, now my phone does it automatically. So I'm good with that.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so, like I start, and, like public speaking and stuff like that wasn't my forte. But, I was in another program with NYU. We had a pitch competition. And I think it was my first time, like, giving the pitch about Black Six Coffee and the Black Six Project. And I think we were in Barclays headquarters where they held the event. And everyone heard, like, my voice cracking because I was, like, almost on the brink of tears. Like, just talking about my mission. Like, all of a sudden, all these years of hard work, I just quit my full-time EMS job. I'm going for this. Like, what do you really believe in? And then as I was talking about it, and the pictures were up there of my unit, our volunteers in different parts of the world, it like really hit me. Like I was like, everyone like felt that emotion. And then like, they were like applauding, and I was like, holy cow, I think I just embarrassed myself. So at the end, we ended up getting first place for that pitch competition. And one of the biggest things was like, I told everyone, like, oh, I was afraid. They're like, yes, you were afraid, but your passion came out in the way you were speaking about it. And I was like, passion. That was like mostly like I was close to crying. They're like, yeah, but we loved it. It shows like how much you love what you're doing. So from then on, we went on to do another competition with an organization called Street Shares. It's another veteran-founded finance company that they were doing a pitch competition, and they were awarding to. So we created a video to apply. My friend Mither, the same one that woke me up on 9/11, he created a promo video for us, and it went on to like an online voting, and we ended up with online voting becoming semifinalists. So becoming semifinalists, they flew me to San Antonio, and like I ended up pitching to a room of like 500 other veteran entrepreneurs, and I was like really nervous. But we ended up winning second place. We won, I think it was $6,000, and I came back a little bit more confident that this is not just like a stupid idea I thought of like a year ago. This is something that could possibly have a good social message, and then also tying together everything I've been wanting to do since I got out of the military.
So I thought that Black Six stood for a square and a roulette table. But
Two-faced.
I'm glad because Black Six. You've been on that stuff.
Ryan
No,
has a problem.
But I don't know where that came from. But I did want to say to you, Joe, not you, Joe B, Joe Z. Man, your story makes me really proud. I'm like, it's really cool. You're in like the nascent stages and the early stages of kind of your mission and your business, right?
Yeah.
But it just makes me proud, like hearing your background story about being an immigrant and being in the military and helping people and just kind of like doing stuff. So, and carrying stuff in your backpack that's worth more than half of my leg, But it just seriously, man, I just wanted to say it really makes me proud to have gotten to have this moment of like interviewing.
Yeah.
So.
I'm really grateful and thankful that we were able to have this happen.
Finally.
Because you reached out to us early this year, and it was just scheduling and whatnot in life.
Yeah.
But like, our schedules on our lives are nothing in comparison to you going out to do med missions and harvest coffee on your back.
Seriously.
I mean, I think that's why it was a conflict. It was like, can you do this date? Like, oh, I'm on this mission, and then I'm available here. Like, oh, we can't do it this year. So it was like, yeah, I understand.
But I'm really grateful. I'm really excited to share your story with our audience. If folks want to check out Black Six Coffee, where should they go?
So Black Six Coffee, we have a website. It's black and then the number 6 coffee.org. You can order a coffee there. We also do corporate events. We made like a little pop-up espresso cart. If you guys are having a wedding or a social gathering, we'll serve our coffee there.
Nice.
And then to also learn more about our nonprofit, you could check out the website Black, again, like the number 6, project.org. And then our social media is almost the same thing, at Black Six Coffee and at Black Six Project. So you could see all the fun things and crazy things we're doing in the Philippines and other parts of the world.
Will you do a pop-up here in LA anytime soon?
That is in the future. We're having some followings in different parts of the world different parts of the country that's like kind of weird, like Ohio. So we're hoping to like show up in different parts of the world, like definitely LA and down south, anywhere.
Cool. Well, we'll be there when you make it out west, because we're here.
Yes. Yes, I'll be there actually Wednesday. So yeah, I know I reached out to you guys about like possibly meeting up, because it would be pretty cool to see you guys.
Hopefully we'll get that done. Yes.
Cool.
Well,
Yes.
Thank you so much, Joe Z, not Joe B.
Yeah, no thank
Joe
you.
B, isn't it? Aren't you an R&B singer?
John B.
John B.
John B's brother.
John B's brother, Joe B. Thank you again, Joe. Thank you, Black Six Coffee. Thank you for everything you're doing. And yeah.
Thank you for your service, and we'll
Oh,
continue to
thank
pay
you,
our
guys.
taxes.
Thank you for your taxes. Yeah. Yeah,
Cool.
make sure you put exemption on everything.
Right. Right on.
No, thank you guys for having me here, and it's just like a great honor to finally speak with you guys. I'm a big fan. I'm definitely trying to put Philippines on the map, whether it's coffee, social impact, or what we're known for is our hospitality and our heart. So I'm not just doing it for the Philippines. Filipinos, we're a global citizen. Whether we're in Asia or the Mexican version of Asia, we're going to be everywhere in the world, and I want to make sure we represent the Filipinos well with what we do in Black Six.
Right on.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you guys.
This Filipino American Life is produced by Michael Nailat. Our intro and outro music is by Roger Habon, aka 10.4 Raj. Resident reality checker Girly Colado, legal advisor Rianne Fajardo, and graphic design by Vincent Collyer.